Hello and welcome to the Leverage Podcast. I'm Paul Richard, and we have Scott J here with us today from AirServe here in Branson, Missouri. And I'm super excited to have you on board with us today, Scott. And we've got a specific thing we want to talk about in our podcast today, especially about the Stone County planning and zoning, what's going on with that and everything. So, but anyway, welcome to the podcast. Good to have you.
Yeah, thank you.
Tell us a little bit. I mean, for those that don't know you, what's your background and your business that you're in? Give us a little background.
Well, just so you know, let's cut out the AirServe part. Let's just go with me as far as this goes. I'll give you background and everything, but
yeah, of course.
So I really don't want the business name in there, because of
course,
some of the other stuff. So my background is I've been in the service industry for about 30 years here in Stone and Taney County, Missouri, and also in Springfield and Greene and Christian County. I'm a master plumber. I'm also a master mechanic. I hold a master mechanical license, and I also hold advanced septic and standard septic. So I know all about septic systems in Stone County and all the other counties in the area, but actually the whole state of Missouri. So
very good.
Dealt quite a bit with planning and zoning in the other counties. I don't, fortunately, I don't have to deal with Stone County all that much. I had a couple of experience with them over the years. But to be honest, my experiences aren't near as bad as some of the others. So.
Sure. And maybe go into a little bit, since you got that background. For those that don't know, planning and zoning in its base purpose, what should planning and zoning do and accomplish if it's really doing its job?
Well, a good planning and zoning system is truly what it does is it will when you're laying out your home or your projects around the home, they'll make sure that your easements are fine, all that kind of stuff. They do plot residential areas and like farmland, commercial areas, different things like that.
Sure.
But for the average homeowner, what you see is they come out. They will, like if you're getting ready to build a home or build a porch onto your home, they'll come out and measure the distance between the easement and whatever you're building, and upon that allow you to build whatever it is.
Okay, and then the zoning component of that is what? Just like if it's commercial or the different
Correct.
types. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
commercial. Just to note, Stone County Planning and Zoning is just mainly for the rural areas.
Okay.
Most cities and municipalities in Stone County, excuse me, have their own planning and zoning boards that regulate their area. And then also on top of that, even in the counties, in the rural areas, if you plot out a subdivision and you're an HOA, you have your own set of rules there also. So really, the only people that planning and zoning really do anything with are local, rural, and homeowners and businesses in the county.
Okay. So the jurisdiction in this case with Stone County is pretty much anything that's outside the parameters of a municipality, or a subdivision.
Yeah, like Kimberling City, they have their own department. Branson West has their own department. Even the little town of Reed Springs has its own planning and zoning department.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I mean, that tells you, and that's in my area. I don't know what Crane has. I don't know what all the others have, but I'm assuming that if Reed Spring has planning and zoning, that those other towns do also.
Excellent. Excellent. All right. So that's kind of the basis of what they should be doing. Is there anything
Well,
else that they do?
so that's what they do. What a real planning and zoning department should do is once you start building those things, they should come out and inspect those to make sure that they're safe. They should come out and make sure that your electrical wiring is good. They should come out and make sure that your gas that you run from your propane tank or natural gas lines is good and safe for the home. Again, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, all those things, even down to the type of lumber used for certain things in a home that help it be tornado proof as much as it can be, and things like that. That's really
Sure.
what planning and zoning is designed for. Unfortunately, our area does not even have that in it.
Huh. So, with some of your comments recently on Facebook and that, what spurred that on? What experience have you seen? And so, what's happening there? I don't really understand it all. What's happening?
So I was not involved in getting the petition started and everything like that. So as far as that goes, basically what happened is a group of citizens had was fed up with Stone County planning and zoning, and so they decided to petition and get enough signatures to get it onto the ballot to get it removed from Stone County.
Oh, okay. So that means basically abandoning the whole planning and zoning department. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, that's what that's what they are. That's what they're trying to do. Now, I will say that a lot of those people want to reinstitute planning and zoning in a more meaningful way in the area that does not have all the extra fluff in it and give it more accountability. Um, so that what their intent is to uh, pull the roots out of this planning and zoning because it's 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 horrible. I mean, there's no other way of putting it. The way they treat people, the things that they've done, the things that I've seen them do personally, and you know those things need to be removed. And what they want to do is come in with a more common sense plan. I, however,
Okay.
I, however, do not agree with that. I'm a little bit more conservative than that, and um, I hope it just goes away altogether. But that's just me.
Are there any that you know of? Are there any models for this that where there's no planning and zoning, uh, how that is managed otherwise, or anything of that nature? Are you familiar with that?
So DNR manages a lot of water runoff, different things like that. Missouri, state of Missouri, they manage water runoff, especially into the lake. We have Corps of Engineers that is very, very strict on their policies as far as the lake goes. Then you also have the Stone County Health Department, which is the one that regulates septic systems and things like that. So those are all still in place to make sure that our drinking water's safe, our lakes are safe, and that nobody's doing anything that's going to harm the land as far as the ecology goes.
Okay. So in the Stone County case, is there? I mean, what experiences have you been made aware of, or that you've had that where it was just not the way it should be? Well, have you had any experiences with that?
Uh, yeah, I mean, we have family members that went to the Planning and Zoning Board. They have, I think it's around 25 to 30 acres out in rural Stone County, out towards Cape Fair, and they wanted to put a second home on for their daughter on that 40. 25 to 30 acres. Um, Planning and zoning would not let them do it. They had to go to court, and I believe that they were able to get that done. The main thing that planning and zoning, from what I understand, had against that was they was going to put a tiny home on there. And unfortunately, the board members of planning and zoning, there are a lot of realtors on there, and you know, people like that they don't want to see a tiny home because then they can't sell that property sitting next to it for as much money.
Oh,
That's my
really?
opinion. You know,
Okay.
that's just my opinion. I've heard several tiny home stories. It's not just that one, but it seems like most tiny homes that come up uh,
Mhm.
get rejected.
Huh. Is that common, do you know, in other counties? Have you seen that
I
there as
don't.
well?
I don't. I
Okay.
just know what goes in our county.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
I'll be honest with you. Here's my first experience with Stone County planning
Okay.
and zoning. We were looking at doing basically the same thing that the
Hmm.
family that I was talking about. Um, and I had to, instead of just being able to do it, we had a little more acreage and everything, but instead of just being able to pay and get get them to come out and show where it's going to go and all that, I had to go in and I had to get I basically had to let planning and zoning tell me it was okay to put two houses on 60 acres, which again, I don't know why. When we own the land and we paid for it, we've worked hard for it. It's a farm, it's agricultural land, which, in this county, agricultural land is meant to be passed down. That's what people have done here in this area for generations. My family's been here, I believe, at least four generations, and I mean that's what happens to family land is it's passed down. Now, why would a family member take and go out and buy another home off of the property to turn around and move back there whenever their parents die or something like that? I mean,
Hmm.
we're not talking about 3 acres and splitting it up or even 5 or 6 and splitting it up. We're talking about agricultural land that people can't split up and build homes for their families on. But again, my experience was fine. I went in, I had all my paperwork, I done everything that I was supposed to. But while I was sitting there were two people in front of me. There was more than that, but the two that I remember. One wanted to put a small shed on his place to house livestock, and before you do anything with a planning and zoning board, you have to put it in the newspaper or you have to mail out to your local neighbors and everything. They give you a list of people that you have to contact. That way, if anybody objects to it, then they're there at the meeting. So this gentleman wanted to take and put this little shed to house some small livestock in, and nobody showed up to say no, that they don't, that's not okay, anything like that. But because of what kind of livestock they wanted to put in, the board said no. No reasons, no nothing like that. They just said that it couldn't happen. And then what happens in that case? Then that person has to get a lawyer and then fight the county to do what they want on their own land that they bought and paid for. And then the next one that came up was a little old man, and he had lived on this property, had a farm, and it sat right next to the lake. His next door neighbor that had lived there for years and years, he had given them permission to use his road in his field to go down to the lake, or I'm sorry, it was the river. It was James River to go down to the river so he could go fishing. So he sells his land. The neighbor sells his land. Uh, a family moves in. They have four wheelers and everything else. And this gentleman, these kids start running up and down his property, going back and forth to the river on his four wheelers, making noise, going right by his house and everything. He tells them that they're not allowed to go in there anymore. And planning and zoning told him since he allowed somebody else to go in through there, he has to let them go through there. So he was forced to allow somebody to terrorize him on his own property because he had let people come in before, so they considered it public land.
Do these planning and zoning boards have any kind of bylaws or foundational principles that they're supposed to run by? How does that work?
They're supposed to, and they're supposed to be clearly written. Ours are not. They have never been. Uh, I mean, I have dealt with planning and zoning. Whenever I moved down to my house in Blue Eye, I wanted to put up an RV building. And so I went to planning and zoning. I found out what I had to do, asked if there was anyone else I needed to contact. They looked at the plat map. I showed them where I wanted it to go. And they said, nope, everything's fine. I got the building up and I was 2 foot too close to a power line. And so I had to remove the building and set it back up in a whole different spot. Which, I mean, was it planning and zoning's fault? Probably not. But if somebody comes in and asks you, is there anybody else I need to contact? They're sitting there looking at the plat map. They know exactly where the house is at. They know where I'm looking to put it. They can see a power line running through there. I mean, that should be, that should be something that, that they could say, hey, you might want to check with your electric company on. Again, I'm not faulting them, but that's one of those things that, there should be a checklist. Hey, have you checked this? Have you checked that? But those things don't happen. And I've also called up there and said, hey, I need to put a shed up here on the property. Do I need a permit? And be told no. And then go talk to somebody else somewhere else, and they say, I don't know about that. You might want to call them back and find out. Call, and they say, oh yeah, you need a permit for that. It's just really whoever you talk to there. It always seemed like it was up for interpretation, whatever I done up there. Again, my experiences weren't horrible, but I've heard a lot of horrible experiences and witnessed, like those two cases. And then I've been in there a few more times, but those were what really turned me off on planning and zoning, was the fact that you can have a piece of property, you can do, you can work your whole life, and then you can turn around and not be able to do what you want on your property whenever it's not hurting anybody else or nobody else cares. Because like I said,
sure.
You have to send out letters stating, hey, this is up for a vote in planning and zoning. If there's any problems or you have any problems with it, come down and discuss them at the meeting. I mean, that's pretty simple, and if nobody shows up that, and doesn't have a problem with it, then if you don't live there, you shouldn't have a problem with it either.
Agreed. I mean, so it seems like lack of, at least either lack of, rules and regulations, if you will, and or lack of adherence to those. Are you hearing a counterpoint on this? Like you're talking about, it sounds like there's three different positions. Keep what we have, eliminate what we have, and rebuild something new, or just get rid of it completely. Was that kind of the three different possibilities?
So really right now, the two possibilities, is either we keep what we have with the hopes of them changing it Um, you know, but they haven't changed it in 30 years.
Sure.
Um, they haven't changed it in 30 years. They've started changing it now because we're trying to get rid of it. And then all of a sudden it became a priority to change it.
Sure.
But, what's going to happen when the election's over if they win? I mean, I'm a firm believer of when the government says, we're here from the government, we're here to help, to turn around and run the other direction. So
Yeah, exactly.
I've never seen a government entity get better. I've only seen them get worse. So that's the one choice, is keep what we've got in hopes that it gets better. Um, the other choice is to get rid of it. Those are the two issues on the ballot. Either keep it in hopes that it will get better, or to remove it. Now, a lot of the people on the vote no planning side, like I said, they want to bring back simple um, rules that are easy to understand and easy to follow. Because I mean, truly, planning and zoning is there to tell you what street you live on, make sure that you don't build out in the road or in the utility lines, and to make sure that you aren't inhibiting your neighbor in any way.
Sure.
as
Sure.
long as outside of whatever the code restrictions are, or inside whatever
Got it.
code restrictions are. So like, if you're living in a subdivision, you're not going to put 15 cows on a half acre of pasture. That
Sure.
kind of stuff.
Sure.
That's
Right.
common sense, simple planning and zoning rules. What we're hearing now is things like, if we don't have planning and zoning, there's going to be a data center built in our area, or somebody can move in and put 2,000 pigs next to your home. That's the examples we get from the vote yes side, is these outrageous things. Could it happen? Yes. But you tell me a pig farmer that's going to spend $14,000 an acre and have to buy up from 15, 20 people for a piece of property big enough to do that on, when they can go right up the road and get a place that's not zoned and with flat pasture land. It's not going to happen. It's like a data center. A data center takes almost 200 acres. That's the average size of a data center. Silver Dollar City, with parking lots, takes up 61 acres.
Hmm.
You're going to
Wow.
tell me a data center is going to come off and bulldoze down 5 hillsides and flatten it out to where they can set a data center in a place where there's no way there's enough electrical power to handle it, versus going again north where the land's flat, where there's farmland, and building something like that there. I mean, it's a lot cheaper to run data lines than it is to bring power into a spot. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
the comments that we get, you know, they're unreasonable, unrealistic, and just not feasible at all. But it's a great scare tactic, you know. And like I said, could it happen? Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk has all the money in the world. If he decided that he wanted to build a data center, you know, out here, then he could definitely do it. But I guarantee you, if Elon Musk decided he wanted to build a data center in Stone County, he'd get it done anyway. Period, plain and simple.
Yep.
He's got lawyers that would figure that out in a New York minute. So, I mean,
Right.
it's
Right.
it's all about keeping control of the people in the community, and we've seen it time
Yes.
and time again. And when people have money in the community, what they do is whenever they get told no, then they go out and hire a lawyer. But
Yep.
whenever somebody doesn't have money, what happens? What's their retaliation for unfair stuff? There is none.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm a very I'm a very black and white person as far as if something's wrong, it's wrong. If it's right, it's right. It's like there's another issue in town of RVs. Having an RV on a rural piece of property while you're trying to build a home and living in it so you don't have to pay or drive. If you live in Springfield and you want to build a home down here, believe me, I done it. I mean, I lived in Reed Springs and I built a home down in Blue Eye, and we drove back and forth. It is miserable. It's hard to do. It takes up a lot of the time that you're supposed to be
Mhm.
working, things like that. You can't put an RV in Stone County on a piece of property even while you're building a home on that property.
Mm.
So people that again spend their hard-earned money to buy a piece of property, now they're having to rent somewhere else instead of living on the piece of property that they're on while they're building their home. But you turn around and call Stone County and say, "Hey, so and so's living in a home up here on blah blah blah, in a travel trailer or an RV," and they say, "Well, they're poor," which I get that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
poor poor people, they need help, but you can't say because I have money or the person down the street's trying to build a home that he can't live in an RV while he's building a home, but this person over here can permanently live in an RV because they're poor.
Hmm.
That you
Yep.
know what's good for the goose is good for the gander. That's the way it should be, but that's unfortunately not the way it is. I mean, there was a termination of a very long-standing planning and zoning uh, head official over this kind of stuff right here.
Hmm. So, it seems like I understand those emotional things, the scare tactics you're talking about. And so, is there a public forum where these things are being argued ahead of time, or is it just, I mean, like in a processive way, or is it just basically people are going to find out about it based on, like you say, Facebook posts, different things like that, and try and get informed?
No, I mean, uh, Stone County Planning and Zoning has been hearing listening meetings um,
Yes.
here the last little while to find out people's complaints. They've also hired, I believe it cost $50,000 on top of all the lawsuits that have been going on over the last since 2023. We're paying $50,000 to find out how to make planning and zoning work better. Um, so our money is being wasted, and then you know you have people out there. Like I said, you got somebody wanting to build an extension on their porch to put a wheelchair ramp in, and then instead of letting it go over a foot, onto it's usually a temporary thing. Whenever you put a wheelchair ramp, I've had family members, as you know, that needed them.
Yes.
And I'll be quite honest, I didn't go to planning and zoning to find out if I could do it.
Sure.
I just went ahead and done it, because um, I was dealing with enough without having to run up there and talk to them about or paying them money just to find out that I could get my child up and down off the porch. So but things like that, and being able to put a storage shed on your property, 3.5 acres, 4 acres, whatever, because honestly, if you're not in a subdivision in Stone and Taney County, um, the minimum amount of land that you can put a home on in any place in Missouri is without a thing from the health department or DNR for a septic system is 3 or 3.5 acres.
Hmm. Okay.
So so we're talking about people that's got 3.5 acres having to go out and tell somebody and buy $100. I don't know what the permit fee is. $150 permit just to put a storage unit on their property.
Hmm. Wow.
Things like that. I just don't, again, if we're talking about, a subdivision or something like that, let them put in their own HOA rules, and if you're inside city limits, you have your own planning and zoning. But don't tell people out in the country that they have 3, 5, 10, 15 acres that they have to pay $150 to set a storage unit on there. And then if you decide to move that storage unit 10 foot, guess what you got to do? Got to
Do
go
it
back and get
again.
a new permit.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the things that make what we have ridiculous. And but I will tell you, we talked about the two things that are on the ballot, and that's one,
Yes.
either getting rid of it or keeping it. And if you keep it, you might as well figure that you're keeping it the way it is, because, like I said, I have never seen a government entity make itself better.
Right. Right. It's
So
just
I mean,
under pressure.
if you
Right
can,
now, they're under pressure. Yeah.
yeah, they're under pressure until they win, and then that pressure goes away.
Yep.
A few things might change, but here's the other thing. It was voted in, I believe, in 97, and then we tried to get rid of it in like 2008, 2009, and they scared the people in Kimberling City and the towns to vote against getting rid of it while they already had their own planning and zoning in there, which is exactly what they're doing now. But the problem is we've got a lot more internet coverage.
Yeah.
There wasn't as many people on Facebook in 2008.
Right.
I mean, I remember 2008. I was still on, what was that, the one before Facebook?
Yahoo or something or
No, the oh, I
oh,
can't remember.
you talking about AOL or something like that?
No, it was the platform that all the teenagers were using before Facebook came out.
Oh,
Um,
yes, 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 yes. Okay, I think I know what you
so
mean.
I
Yes.
was posting on it whenever all that was going on. So I mean, there's not the red
MySpace.
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 Yep, that was
MySpace,
it.
yeah.
And I was posting on it during that time, trying to keep people from doing planning and zoning at that point in time, because I
Got it.
had already gone through this and watched these two people get turned down for one to lock his gate because he had teenagers running across his field, and they weren't just staying on the drive, they were going through his field and going different places, but he couldn't control it, so he locked the gate. Planning and zoning told him he had to open the gate back up and let him go. you know
Wow. Wow.
that's when I decided planning and zoning was not for me. uh, you know um, but there are so many different instances, and you can go on the Vote No Facebook platform, and you can look at them. I mean, you got people. Now I will say that on there, people do get excited. Rumors do happen, and a
Sure.
lot of times people say things without knowing 100% sure, and that's what I try to keep from doing now. So I'm really just sticking to the things that I know about and that I've witnessed and I've seen. That way, nobody can come back and say that I'm a liar. I mean, like they have on Facebook, um, you know because they can, because they're sitting behind a keyboard. Um, you know, but
Yeah.
uh, but it's one of those things to where if we don't do something about it, it's never going to get better. But unfortunately, what I believe will happen, if it does get voted out, there are a lot of people that are very interested in having the common sense rules and regulations, and then you put those on with the people that are already vote yes. I don't think there's any way we can keep it from not coming back in. Um,
Okay.
and my personal preference is to pull it up by the roots and throw it off to the wayside and let us get on with
Sure.
our. But you know, I know that probably isn't going to happen. But I mean, at least we could get, again, common sense rules that are written down and are made for this area, not just take Christian counties and copy and paste it into Stone County, because we're not Christian County. We're no other county other than Stone County. That's why people move to this area, is because they like Stone County. They like Taney County. But, and so you can't take somebody else's planning and zoning rules and move them in here. You got people that buy a piece of property from Kansas down here, and so then they have to rent a home or something to live in while they're building a home down here, versus if they've got an RV, they could park it there, get the home built in 6 months, put the RV under a garage or sell it or do whatever. But no, we can't do that in Stone County. But we can let poor people live in them. And again, I think anybody that wants to live in an RV and have their own piece of property should be able to do it. I'm not talking down to poor people, because
Sure.
I think if I buy a piece of property in this county, as long as I'm not hurting somebody else, I should be able to do whatever I want. Now, what they take and they say about that is, well, you're hurting property values. But
Am I? Yeah.
am I? I mean, you got poor people living in RVs, and
Yep.
they're living there permanently, versus somebody that's living in one to build a house, and then it's going to be gone. That doesn't sound like that's hurting property values. And if somebody just pulls an RV onto a piece of property and you drive by and say, well, they're poor, so we're not going to do anything about it, then are you helping the people next door with their property values, or are you just picking and choosing what rules you're going to follow? And
And it's really common. It's really common, Scott. I mean, as a realtor, and I've been a realtor here in this area for about 10 years, and you and I have known each other about that whole time. And
about 10 years.
bottom
Yeah.
line is, yeah, I can't even count how many people have said, I'd like to do exactly what you're talking about. I'd like to find a piece, maybe 5 acres, come down there, put a well in, put a septic in, set up maybe a slab, bring my RV down, park it there, and build my house, and, I could sell those all day long, honestly, and that would increase property values, I would think, for the most part, and most of these people are not going to have a hobo shack on their property.
If
You know what I'm
if
saying?
they took and paid for an RV just to move it to a piece of property to build a house, versus
Well, and
Yeah.
and pulled out a permit to get the well and septic done properly, right? And all those things. You wouldn't do that if you were trying to scam the system. At least not
Right.
most people,
Yeah. So me and you're gonna have a talk here now. You've been asking me questions and I've been rambling on. I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
So I know that isn't the way the platform usually works, but the topic relates to realtors, and
Yes, it
I am
does.
not a realtor. So my question to you is, so there's been flyers sent out. There's been some pretty big money being spent for voting yes on this. Um, $25,000 from the Board of Realtors. They've sent out 4, maybe 5 flyers saying, that, whatever the scare tactics that we used before, and other things. The other one is nightly rentals or short-term rentals. I guess they're scared of short-term rentals, even though they're the ones that manage them. A lot of times they're scared of them. I love short-term rentals. You know that. I work on
Yes,
heating, air
yes.
conditioning. I work on plumbing, and
Yep.
short-term rentals. My company, we know that those have to be up and going. We work on them at 2 o'clock in the morning. We work on them at 4 o'clock
Yeah.
in the morning. We work on
Yep.
them until the renter says, "Hey, it's too late, and we don't want you coming out tonight. Come out in the morning." And then we'll be out there in the morning. Same way with plumbing. We do the same thing with that. So I have absolutely nothing against short-term rentals. I want to know why, since short-term rentals brings in so much money in the area, why are realtors so against them?
Now, when you say realtors are against them, are you talking
Well, they're
about,
using that as a scare tactic. I don't know that they're against them, but they sound like they are because they're using it as a scare tactic in their brochures that they're sending out, and then whenever they're posting on Facebook, they're talking about you could have a short-term rental move in right next to you, because
yeah,
short-term rentals they move in out here in the cow pasture in Stone County. That's
right,
where people
right.
want to go. It's not in towns or in incorporated areas that already have HOAs around the lake. Because I mean, God forbid you try to buy a piece of land around the lake now. Of course, I guess we could put a data center next to the lake and spend $400,000 on 10 acres versus the 15 or 20.
Yeah,
That would make more
yeah.
sense. I guess you would have access to water that way.
Right,
So
right. Well, hopefully,
well,
hopefully,
until
yeah.
you went to Corps of Engineers and said, "Hey, I want to pump out water out of Stone Count Table Rock Lake," and yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that would never happen. So,
No, no,
uh,
no, not at all.
but
Or the pig farm, like you said,
yeah,
because
yeah, the pig
they
farm, yeah.
contaminate. Yeah, they're known to contaminate a lot of
Well,
waterways and that type of
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Well, I live right down from a family farm that has been there for generations. And Corps of Engineer came in and said, "Hey, you need to build a fence around your lake part because your cows are getting in the water and they're pooping in the water."
Oh,
And so
huh.
that was before planning and zoning, and that was DNR that came in and done that. So, like I said before, those things are already regulated
Yeah, yeah.
without planning
That's
and zoning. You know, and then the other thing realtors they scare you with is, well, somebody could come out and tear out all the trees and build condos. Have you driven down by the Kimberling City Bridge where they topped off that
yeah,
whole hillside and it looks like a bomb went off? It doesn't
yeah,
now, but they took
yeah.
out almost every tree off the top of that thing
They
and
did.
built
They
condos
did.
there. And those are the
Yep,
things that
yep.
we're supposed to be scared of, even though they're happening already.
Right,
You know,
right.
because
Yep.
you know I just don't understand. It goes back to the old adage is what's good for thee may not be good for me. Type of a thing.
Yes, yes.
To where I want this, I'll be able to get it, but I'll keep you from being able to get it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so that's really why I'm against planning and zoning. But again, going back to the realtors, I know
Sure.
I skip around. I have
No, it's
ADHD.
okay.
We get in our squirrel moments and go on a rant. But um, I mean, I don't know why the realtors are spending that much money. Now, I was doing some research. I love Chat GPT. I know it doesn't always come out right, but
Right. Right.
if you learn to use it like I have, you can usually get pretty close. And you know what I found was the average rental, short-term rental, is for a condo is about $1,500 a week. Some 1,200, some 1,800, depending on the
Yep.
bedroom, where it's located,
Yep.
things like that. Would you agree that's
Right.
probably 1,500?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, in a house, anywhere from 2 to 3 bedrooms is going to go from anywhere around $2,000 to $3,000 a week. So
Mm-hmm.
if you average that to
Yes.
$1,500 a week, the only thing that I can see is there's thousands of lake homes and nightly rentals in this area. Thousands.
Yes.
I mean, everybody knows it.
Yep.
But the price is being held up on them right now because Stone County doesn't allow anybody to build a nightly rental. Taney County doesn't allow anybody to build a nightly rental. I think they've got a hold on nightly rentals right now, right?
I'm
So,
pretty sure. I don't know for sure, but I've heard that. I've
yes,
heard that.
I believe that's true. Again, I don't go out and look for this stuff, but I am in both communities an awful lot. I've lived here all my life. I was born in a hospital 20 miles north, and I came home to a place that was 5 miles south of where I'm sitting right now. And I have not moved from Stone County my whole entire life. So, I mean, I know people, I know things, and I do have my ear in the community. Plus, I have a couple of
Yeah,
businesses in the area. So,
sure.
uh, whenever I say I don't go looking for it, doesn't mean that I don't hear it. It's just that I'm not sitting here trying to figure out whether or not, I'm not playing gotcha moments. I'm just going off
Yeah,
the information
yeah,
that um but
yep.
so what happens as a realtor? What happens to the price if you've got a monopoly on short-term rentals in the area
When
and
you
you're a
say
real
monopoly,
and you're a
when you say
realtor?
monopoly, how would you define a monopoly?
Well, I would define a monopoly as not being able to build anymore, so there's no more resources for it. They're all already sold, and there can't be any more put in the area as of right now, from my
Right,
understanding.
right.
So, what happens if somebody wants to invest from Kansas City and say, "Hey, I'd like to have a home out on the lake, and I'll rent that out while I'm not using it." Right? We have
Yeah,
how many people you get phone calls from like that a year?
uh,
A
quite
lot.
often,
Right.
and
A lot.
or buying even an existing home and converting it to nightly rental and
But
in
you can't do
that
that now.
way. Right, right. I mean, I'm
That
getting the call. I'm getting the call, right?
right, right. But you have
But
to
it's
tell them, hey, I can't do that right now because they're
Mhm.
not allowing any nightly rentals. So
Right.
so the only thing that I can think of for the realtors, the reason why they're willing to spend $25,000 for the board, and then four or five more putting anywhere from 1,000 to 2,000 to 5,000 into it, and things like that, is and that's on top of Table Rock Chamber of Commerce sending out their own stuff and commenting on everybody's posts that is vote no, putting out the pig fly, the pig pictures and the data center pictures.
Data center
But
picture.
which is,
Yes, yes.
huh?
Yes, I was just repeating what you said. Yeah, the
Oh,
data
okay,
center and the pigs. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and doing all of that, which you and I both know, chambers are full of what realtors, right?
Right, right.
So I mean that's one of their biggest member backing. The only thing I can think of is the reason they're doing that is because they can say, "Well, I've got this one property that um, that I can get you. The price is normally $200,000, but this one's able to be a nightly rental. I can get it for you for 275." Would you agree that that could very well happen?
That could well happen. It really okay. So the caveat to that, it's not a perfect world, and I mean, I had this talk with several of my sellers recently who have nightly rentals in some of our communities here, and right now I just pulled stats on it in the last couple of days. You know, we've got 650 in Stone and Taney County. We have somewhere in the area of 650 nightly rental condos on the market. Okay,
That's condos.
uh,
That's not houses and
that
condos, right?
that's condos, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I was just using that as an idea, because during COVID, which is obviously a different market than we have today, there was only about 40 to 50 roughly, and they would roll every month, right? I mean,
Right.
literally like be off the market and rolling. Yet our demand was through the roof during that time, 2021. And
Yeah, because nobody could
so
go anywhere else because they were all closed down.
yeah, and the returns were high. Well, now we're in a position where in general, the returns are lower on your nightly rentals. And so the values are following that trend,
Yeah,
right? And you've
yeah,
got, yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
you've got
But
investors selling off. Yep.
yeah, but would you agree that a home that is able to be a nightly rental is worth more than a home that is not if you don't live in the area?
Yes. Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Now, I
Yeah,
mean,
it would be.
whether that's 50,000 or whether it's 15,000. That and so I mean, if you make the market to where you can't get any more, and I mean those things turn over all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
because like you
Yeah.
said, people buy them and think they're going to make a fortune on them, and then turn around and find out, hey, I'm not making a fortune, and I'm not going down to brand as much as what I want. I'm putting it back on the market.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Happens every day in this area. So the only thing I can think of is it helps their commissions, because they get paid. If something's worth more, they get paid more, right? Which, hey, I own a couple businesses in town. I am all for the capital system, the capitalist system. That's,
Me too. Yeah. Yeah.
But where I have a problem with it is whenever you put your thumb on somebody else to make yourself go up. And
that's, yeah. Yep.
To me, and it may not be that. I've asked the question. I've tried to find out why. All I get is it's because it's the good of the community. I have never seen a board of anything spend 25 grand on something because it was the good of the community, whenever it isn't a philanthropical thing.
Sure.
It's because it's the good for the good of them, right? I mean, makes sense, So, I mean, that's I just don't know why the realtors are doing it, other than, it's helping their pocketbook. And if it's helping their pocketbook and holding other people down, that's wrong, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and I have to say that unlike you, I grew up outside of the area in larger cities across the country. And so my perspective sometimes is contrary to what I see going on in some of these things. And so I'm much more, as you probably know, if you've seen my Facebook and that kind of thing, I tend towards freedom. I tend towards, like you were mentioning early, freedom to be able to do some of these things with your property that you own, and that, et cetera. And so I would tend to be contrary to a lot of things sometimes that are decided by different boards of realtors and that type of thing. I'm of a different opinion on a lot of those things. In this case in particular, I have no knowledge of what's going on, and I didn't even know the $25,000 went out, to be honest with you. I don't even,
and I'm sure you're a member of the board of realtors.
I have to be. Yeah, exactly. I can't operate my business unless I am.
Your money went to vote yes on Stone County Planning and Zoning, just so you know.
Yeah, yeah. It's like being a union member, right? You just, the union gets to spend it the way they want to spend it. So I don't know if it, either way. And so, and like I said, with you, in accordance with what you're talking about, I would tend towards freedom, and I would tend towards, if it's broke, tear it down and either rebuild it or whatever the case may be. Yeah, burn it down, start over.
That is exactly what I told the commissioner the other day whenever I talked to him on the phone. I've known Gordon for several years. I talked to him on the phone. I don't know him firsthand, but here's the way I look at people. Whenever I deal with you and you say you're going to do something and you do it, I consider you a good person as far as with me. And every time I've ever asked Gordon to help me out with something, not on the political side, he owns other businesses and things like that, man, he's right on the spot. He gets it done. And you know me, I'm a last person. I'm a last second guy. I'm like, I need this done. I've got a printer that, he's on speed dial. And whenever I need something, I call him and he goes, when do you want this done? I say,
Is it Keith?
No, Prestige Inc.
Oh, Prestige. Okay. I was thinking it might be Copy Run.
Yeah.
Since they're right by you guys. Okay.
Yeah. Mark with Prestige Inc. I mean, I can call him up and I can say, hey, I need this. And he goes, when do you need it? And I say, yesterday. And he says, I'll have it in an hour. Which is too late.
Nice.
That's too late. But,
now it's too late.
I'll deal with it, So, but I mean, every time I've ever dealt with Gordon, that's what I get. He says he's going to do something. He says that there's going to be an email sent to my inbox that day. I have an email.
Nice.
If I'm
Yeah.
doing something. And so I don't have any doubt that Gordon, uh, Commissioner Gordon, I guess if we're talking in the
Yeah.
political
There we
realm
go.
here,
Yep.
uh, but I don't have a doubt that he will try to change planning and zoning. My problem is we tried to get it voted out because it was unjust and, in my opinion, corrupt. And
Hmm.
if you go on and you look at the Vote No site, you'll see a lot of people talking about corruption in the area. You'll see videos of the way people are treated at planning and zoning, different things like that. So in my opinion, it was a corrupt place over there, and so we tried to vote it out. And of course, it was, oh, we'll be better, we'll comply with the laws. The reason we were able to try to get it voted out the first time was on a legal technicality because they didn't set it up right to begin with. Uh,
Okay.
but then, oh, we'll do better. And then, that was 15 years after it started. And now we're sitting here at another 15 years after we voted it back in again. Oh, we'll do better. Gordon's not going to be in there forever. And he's not the
Right.
only person that controls that planning and zoning.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
you know, I'm not saying that there's not people in there that's going to try, but it didn't happen the last two times. What makes us think it's going to happen again? That's my opinion. But there's a lot of people, like I said, that want to restart it and at least have common sense laws that work for a rural area versus some city in Christian and Greene County.
Now, are those appointed positions or are they elected?
The commissioners and things like that are elected. Some of them are appointed. Honestly, I don't know that much about it as far as that side of it goes.
Sure.
I just know what I've seen in the area, and I don't like it, and I don't want it. So, but Gordon's not going to be there forever, and whoever we get in there after Gordon may not feel the same way, and it may go right back to the way it was.
Sure.
Now, is Gordon
Sure.
going to be able to make all the changes he wants to? Maybe not. We don't know. Again, I've never seen a government entity get better; they only get worse. So
Yep.
that's the reason why I'm for getting completely rid of it. But like I said, that's probably not going to happen because it only takes 900. I think he said it's right at 1,000. I think is what Gordon told me the other day. He said he won't put it back on the ballot unless he gets a petition for it. I'm sure the Board of Realtors and Tri Lakes Chamber of Commerce can come up with 900 people to put it back on the ballot. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll get voted back in. I mean,
Got it. Yeah.
but at least with Gordon at the helm and it getting voted back in, maybe we can get some common sense things instead of trying to weed out what we've already got. I mean, what we got right now is we've got a garden crop planted out there, and somebody went through and threw fescue seed in the middle of it. Now we're sitting here
Bunch of
having to pull
weeds.
the weeds.
Yep.
We're pulling
Yep.
all the weeds. We're not, and you can't harvest the fruit because you're pulling the weeds. And so, let's start with fresh soil ground, and go from there if we have to.
Sure. Sure. Understood. Well, this has been really educational for me. I don't follow this as closely as maybe I should, in that realm. And of course, it's just it's one of those things where if you're not doing some activity that's related to real estate or something in Stone County, that you run up against these things. And I did have somebody recently. I was on the selling side. I was the listing agent and sold some land in Taney County, and the buyer bought it, was going to put some type of resort on there. I don't know exactly what the resort looked like because it was not my client. And then now they put it back on the market because it was
Can't have
rejected.
short-term rentals.
Yep, it was rejected. Now, the due diligence I would have thought should have been done probably before the closing,
Sure.
and that type of thing. And but I had no control over it because obviously that was not my representation, and I
Right.
don't blame the buyer's agent either about those things. But at the end of the day, you know, it's I think the application. I don't know how you get consistent application of the rules to begin with. If it's just a subjective process, then it's never going to get fixed. If it's
Right.
only subjective, and I get, a portion of it would almost have to be in some sense, but that should be kind of the final thing. I don't like this person. They're not going to get it. That's
Well,
not going to work. Right.
so from what I understand, they've had this for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
They just voted, I believe, this last summer of what a quorum was to actually be able to take a vote.
No kidding.
30
Wow.
years. 30 years it took them to figure out how many people had to be in a room before they could take a vote. So that tells me right there, again, I haven't been to all those meetings. If 5 people showed up and voted, then it was done. If 18 people showed up and voted, that's the way it was.
Hmm.
So I mean,
Very
and
interesting.
that's the stuff that I'm talking about. It
Sure.
if you can't even figure out how many people it takes to vote to make it something ratified and legal in the county, if you haven't even thought that much into what you're doing in 30 years, I mean, what are we
Yeah.
doing?
Why are we doing it this way? I really don't. Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
understand that. Do you think that with the current climate of what you've seen, maybe you have a pulse on this? Do you think that it may get voted no, or do you think the yeses are going to win? Do you have any idea at this point how it's going to come out?
I don't have a clue. And I
Okay,
mean, if it was just up to the people in the rural areas that has to actually deal with Stone County planning and zoning, there's no question it would be voted down. But
sure.
unfortunately, there's a lot of people in cities. I mean, I was just answering questions earlier before I got on with you. There was somebody that was in Kimberling City saying, "Well, my neighbor could put in whatever." I'm like, "You're inside city limits. You have your own planning and zoning." She goes, "No, that's Stone County planning and zoning." No, that's Kimberling City planning and zoning. So all
Hmm.
these people that live in these small communities, they think that they're under the same planning and zoning as what we are.
Sure, sure.
So that makes it hard to know whether or not, because if I lived on a half-acre piece of land and somebody was going to put 25 chickens in their backyard, I might be concerned about it too.
Sure,
But
sure.
that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about pieces of property that have, there could be that in the country. But if you want to live under an HOA, there's plenty of places. You know as well as I do. How many people do you have come into town going, "I really like that piece of property," and you say, "Well, it has an HOA on it," and they say, "I don't like that piece of property." Right?
All the time, all
Exactly.
the time, all the time. Yeah, and
But
over and
then they
over and
move
over.
out to the country and they want to complain about their neighbor having a cow in their backyard on 6 to 10 acres. You
That's
know,
exactly right. And I don't, here's the thing. A lot of it is like, say, California, and there's such oppression because the HOA is so oppressive to the homeowners that they're like, I want out of this prison, right?
yeah,
And so they think it's going to be the same because it really boils down to enforcement, right? Because if I say your lawn cannot be higher than 4 inches, and I let it get to 5 inches because I was gone for a
your
week,
lawnmower broke.
and yeah, because my lawnmower broke, and then they're fining me, because it's 1 inch over. They got their tape measure, that's the kind of thing that if it's 4 feet tall, and the property's abandoned, that's a different thing than those. And then you've got somebody that's knocking on your door every time your mailbox is open, and you can't park that car here, and you can't do the. You're like, I don't want to live here anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want this. And as a realtor, how do you know that you'd
How
almost have
oppressive it's
to?
going to be. Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to live there almost to know, what's going on with that, and so that's the thing. So I'm
Well,
with you on
well,
that.
let's take that analogy right now, right there,
Yeah,
and say that yours is like that, and they're coming around to you every 5 minutes and talking to you about this is wrong and this is wrong. But then they go four houses down and Mrs. Jones is falling on hard times and her
yep,
grass is 10 inches tall and they say, oh, it's okay because she's going through a rough patch right now. But by
hmm,
God, you better get yours mowed. That's what's going on in our county right now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
that's the problem. That's the main
yep,
problem is, you know, consistency, good rules to follow, and I don't care if you've known them for 20 years and they walk in and say they want to split a piece of land to put a house on, or you've just met them. If the terms are the same, they should get equal treatment. And
hmm,
that's not what happens
hmm.
in Stone County right now.
Right, right, right. It has to be. You're absolutely right. It has to be kind of like, the blind application of the judicial system. It's like, it needs to be blind to your situation or whatever. Or at the same time, you are correct. There needs to be some, you know, if there's somebody that needs help, you know, let's as a community reach out and get them some help or whatever.
Yeah,
That type of
let's go
thing.
mow their lawn for them.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
exactly, exactly. Yes,
but I mean that, but the just the premise of yeah, her lawn's 10 inches tall because she's going on hard times, and yours is 5 inches tall, and it's all supposed to be four. By God, get yours mowed, but we'll let her slide. You know,
yep, yep, yep. And we're going to fine you and not her,
and not
and
her.
that kind of thing. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it needs to be equal treatment under the law.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I'm with
and
you.
unfortunately,
Well,
that's not what we have in Stone County
yeah.
as far as
Well,
planning and zoning goes.
sure, sure. And I live outside of Branson city limits. I'm in Taney County, outside city limits, and so I don't know. And again, I don't monitor it that much, but I'm sure there's some inequities there as well.
Yeah,
That go on.
I've dealt with Taney County, and they seem pretty cut and dry.
Is that right?
As
That's
far as
good.
that goes. Now, I live in Stone County, and I've dealt with it, and I hear more people from Stone County, so I can't say that that's
Sure,
my assessment is 100% true. But from what I've seen and what I've had to deal with them on, it's pretty cut and dry. Now,
sure,
I mean, I've had decisions in Taney County because I own property in Taney County too that I
sure.
didn't like. But it was, well, this is the rules. This is the way we got to do it.
Hmm.
And, all I have to do is annex a piece of property into a township and I can get my water well or whatever. But I don't want to do that. I'll end up putting a well on it because
Yep,
I
yep.
don't want to live under everybody else's rules. That's
Right.
my whole thing. And,
Yep,
and,
yep.
and I'll be honest with you. I have not followed this as long as what a lot of other people do. I started about 2.5 weeks ago, and it was truly after I seen the first thing that said, something about a data center and pigs could
Yeah,
be put in your,
yeah,
and that was
yeah.
just like, this is enough. This is ridiculous. Scare tactics. If you want to go off merit and you want to talk about merit and sway people to vote off of that, I'm all good for it. But whenever you start using ridiculous scare tactics and I'll just use my mom for example. She seen something on Facebook and she thought that it was real. Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah,
as far
yeah.
as she was an older person
Yep, yep.
and she I don't know. I was telling Karen the Star Wars figures that they had for baby Jesus and things like that. She would
Yes,
share
yes.
that stuff all the time, and I'd call her and say, "Mom, come on now, yeah, that's not really what that is, and things
I
like
love
that."
Linda. I love Linda. Oh, I loved her.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Your mom.
the thing is if you think about Kimberling City is a retirement community.
Uh huh. Yep.
That was mostly people that was my mom's age.
Yep.
and
Yep.
they're getting these things from the people that work at Tri Lakes Chamber of Commerce
Mm-hmm.
and the Board of Realtors and everything else. And what are they going to think?
Yeah.
I mean, what would you think if you were 60, 65, 70, 80 years old and somebody said that a reputable place. I mean, I've been a member of that Chamber of Commerce.
Sure. Sure.
So I mean, but a reputable place kind of turns around and says something like that. You're like, oh my gosh, I've got to vote yes for planning and zoning because of that. Without knowing anything else. And that's really when I got involved in it, was because of the ridiculous statements that people were making. And then, there was one guy that I know, him, great guy, dealt with him for years, love him to
Yep.
death. But one of his posts said, and I'm not going to get it word for word because I'm not looking at it. Do you
Sure.
really want somebody to be able to do whatever they want on their own property? And I'm not more than a couple of words off, and the sentiment was exactly that.
Oh my goodness. Oh my
And I
goodness.
mean, and whenever I seen those things right there, I was like, yeah, I got to get involved in this. And so I spend
Yeah.
3, 4, 5 hours a night on there, rebutting things. Now,
Yeah. Yeah.
would not having planning and zoning be perfect? Absolutely not. I
No.
mean,
No.
but it would be a heck of a lot better than what we got now.
I think you bring up a good point that this is the way I view it. And my wife and I had this talk the other night, is that really you can't regulate morality. Okay. Right. You know that you just can't, you can't make enough laws to govern morality. So, that from a Christian perspective, that your value system is going to dictate your behavior. Right. I mean,
Right.
it's just the way it works. Right. And so, trying to have an oversight to just, this is a behavior issue, right? And with your property, it's somewhat of a behavior issue. You're going to do something silly with it, right? And that, so you there's something that really irks me, is like our seatbelt fee. If you get caught, they can pull you over because of your seatbelt. That irks me to no end. Okay,
Me
that they
too.
can pull me over because I have a seatbelt. I didn't put my seatbelt on this last time.
I
And
register everything as a vehicle and over 10,000 pounds because that's the way it used to be. You didn't have to wear a seatbelt.
yeah, and not that I don't wear my seatbelt. It's just occasionally I forget to put it on, or something. But I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, somebody might see me, and
Yeah.
or whatever, that kind of thing. And but anyway, long story short is I'm more for less regulation, because you're not going to control the heart of people.
Right.
That needs to come from a different place in that world, and that type of thing. So I'm with you on that. I'm probably not in the majority on how I feel about these things, and do that. I don't go with the flow most of the time if it's just kind of a general consensus. In fact, I posted, I don't know if you saw it, but I posted the other day, I've seen all these people complaining about gas prices. And I said, if you're going to complain about gas prices on Facebook, go ahead and move back with mommy and let her take care of it. Okay. Let's just grow up and let's look at this, the way it really is, and look at it logically, not emotionally, none of these fear factor things that you've been talking about. Let's throw out all that, 0.01%. I love it. Sometimes I do watch Greg Gutfeld sometimes at night on the Gutfeld show, or on the 5 on Fox. And that's the way he thinks. He's like, you guys are throwing out stuff that is the exception to every rule and then scaring people with it. And that's
Right.
kind of what you're talking about,
That's
it's,
exactly what they're doing,
yeah,
and
yeah,
I mean, and again, if it was going to hit my pocketbook, well, I can't say that because I try not to live my life that way, but I
sure,
could
sure.
see if it was going to hit my pocketbook to where I would be more inclined to use scare tactics,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
versus, the other side, it's just a bunch of people that got fed up with it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you got people spending thousands of dollars trying to keep it in, keep it in, and then you got this other side that is just a bunch of people that said I've had enough of dealing with them.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, good. I mean, is there anything else you wanted to talk? This has been great, and I really appreciate you coming on. This has been fun. I do like bouncing these ideas around, and I think open forum is the best thing. You need open discussions. Listen, if you had an opposing view, I don't hate you. I'm not gonna try and
Exactly.
spite you. It's just okay. Let's just have a conversation. I would. Let's not run from it. Let's confront it, right? Let's
Well,
do.
yeah,
That's how this thing
so
works.
yeah, and so that's exactly what I try to do on Facebook.
Yep,
If you've looked at any of my posts that I put on, which I'm assuming that you did, or you wouldn't have
I
reached out
did.
to me,
Yeah,
but
I did.
but I'm never disrespectful to somebody. I
Right.
don't call them names. I don't, I'm not trying to talk down to people. I'm just trying to show either my point of view or explain, like I said, with the lady that was on there talking about we need to have Stone County planning and zoning in Kimberling City. I'm sorry, you've got your own planning and zoning,
You
and
don't understand what's going on.
no matter what happens to Stone County planning and zoning, people in Kimberling City will not be affected because
Right.
they have a planning and zoning department, and it is more strict than the Stone County one. The
Yep.
only time
Yep.
the only time you have a problem is whenever the city is less strict than the county,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
That would
then the
make
county
sense.
can step in and say, no, you got to go by our rules because of this. Same way with state. If your county has less strict rules than the state does on something, you have to go with the state rules.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
So, so yeah, that's just kind of the way it is. I'm glad, I'm glad you reached out to me to talk to me about this. Again,
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't plan on being this involved with it, but it's one of those things to where when you see people, being wronged and you know being called hate groups because we don't want planning and zoning, then I decide to step up. So
Yeah, and I quoted this to somebody else the other day. One of my favorite movies is Princess Bride, and I love when have you seen that movie?
yeah, a
Yeah,
couple of times. It's been a lot of
and
years ago since I've
in
seen
a
it.
lot
But
of
yeah.
years. But Wesley says, we are men of action, and lies do not become us. I mean, that's really the basis of what goes on, and we need to take action. The whole idea that don't get involved in politics and religion, don't talk about it or whatever. That's a bunch of hogwash. That is our core life, and things. So, yeah, man, I really appreciate you coming on today. It's been a lot of fun. And, so we'll wrap this up, and I will hope to see you again soon,
Oh yeah,
here as we
we
go.
need to go to
Okay.
lunch.